Hi everyone, I'm Chris Kibble. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to easily manipulate data in Microsoft Excel using string functions, hopefully saving you the manual effort and perhaps helping you automate some of your work. In this demo, I'm going to show you how to concatenate strings and the functions left, mid, right, find, trim, and len, and then how to use them together to get what it is you're looking for. At the end of the demo, we'll touch on the if function and show you how you can manipulate the table based on some set of criteria. Once you're done watching, you can find our sample Excel sheet with all of the functions we use over at christopherkibble.com by clicking on the videos link. This is our sample Excel sheet that we will use for the demo. Here we have 25 order IDs with customer names and telephone numbers. The last two characters of the order ID tell us the state the order was placed. Our first task in the sheet is one of the more common ones. The table has the customer's name displayed last name first. We'll be using the left and mid functions to extract the last name and first name into their own cells. Because last names are never the same size, we'll need to first use the find function to determine where the comma is in the cell. In column F, we'll create a new formula using the find function to look for the comma. The find function has two required parameters. First, what it is you're looking for, and second, where it is you want to look. Here, we'll say that we're looking for a comma in cell C2. Excel tells us it's the sixth character in the text. If we drag this down to the bottom of the sheet, we can find where the comma is for all names. Now that we know how long the last name is, one number less than where the comma is, we can use the left function to get the last name. This function has two required parameters, the cell you want to look at and how many characters from the left that you'd like to see. We can reference the F column that helps us determine dynamically how many characters it is that we want. In column G, we'll say that we're looking at C2, and the number of characters will be one less than the number in column F. Remember, if this doesn't make sense, you can visit the videos link at christopherkibble.com to download and experiment with this Excel sheet. While this solution does work, it's a little kludgy and requires us to split the work into two columns. Once you have a grasp on how the functions work independently, you can begin to put them together into a single cell. Here, I'll copy the find function that we know worked from column F and use that in the left function in column G. The result is the same, but I've now done the work in one cell and I can remove column F. Next, we'll want to capture the first name and place it in column G. To do this, we're going to introduce the mid and len functions. The mid function will return to you the middle part of a string. It has three required parameters: the cell you want to evaluate, the character to start at, and how many characters to capture. Because we don't know the length of the first name, we use the len function, which returns the length of the entire cell. Although that number is technically larger than the first name, Excel still knows what we're looking for. In column G, we'll enter equals mid. We'll look at cell C2. We will start two characters after the comma. So just like the last name, we'll find the comma in cell C2, and then we'll add 2. Finally, how many characters do we want to capture? Here, we'll do the entire length of C2. The last thing we'll do with the name is to use the ampersand character to concatenate the names together to create one cell with the proper formatting. The ampersand character does nothing more than bring fields together, as I'll show you by merging columns B, G, F, and D into column H. In between each cell, I'll place one blank space. As I drag this down, you'll notice something interesting about Anna Barrett. There's a blank space at the beginning. This is because she has no prefix. The cell is still added, although empty, followed by a space. To resolve this, we'll use the trim function, which takes away all the white space before and after a field. We'll surround our entire string with this. You can now see that the white space before Anna's name has been removed. Our next task will be to extract the state abbreviation from the order ID. Since we know that the state is always the last two characters of the ID, we can use the right function to capture it. Like the left function, the right function has two required parameters: the cell you want to look at, and for this function, how many of the rightmost characters you want to bring in. In column I, we'll use the right function to capture the right twomost characters from column A. Finally, we'll touch briefly on the if function. This function allows you to check for a certain condition and do one thing if it's true and something else if it's false. In our sheet, we'll use this function to add the +1 prefix to telephone numbers that are missing it. While there are better ways to do this than with if, it's a simple example that demonstrates how the function works. In column G, we'll start with equals if, and then our condition. We're going to say if the leftmost characters of E2, comma 3, number 3 characters, equals +1 dash, so they do have the prefix, then we're going to return E2. We're going to return the telephone number as is. Otherwise, the value if false, we're going to return +1 dash ampersand the telephone number, closing up parenthesis. As we drag this down, you'll see that it's added the +1 dash to all the phone numbers that were missing it, and not adding it to the phone numbers that already had it. Thank you for taking the time to watch this demonstration. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave them in the comment section of this video at christopherkibble.com. Please also remember that you can download the sample Excel sheet from my website, complete with all the functions, and you can also check to see if there have been any updates or corrections posted regarding this demo.